Alrighty, thanks, Stuart. And now, Scott Caufield from Tripadvisor will lead our next educational session and provide insights into industry trends along with marketing best practices. Scott Caufield is a principal client partner at Tripadvisor, where he helps destinations in a 10-state region gain exposure to the site's 400 million monthly travelers. In 9 years at Tripadvisor, Scott has spoken to thousands of destination and hospitality sector executives across the U.S. to help them navigate the ever-evolving world of travel. Scott is based in Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in the town of Salina, where he lives with his wife Laura and their 2 children, and is a massive connoisseur of blue M&Ms. I'll leave it at that. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Bob. And I'll just say, following celebrities and a cure for cancer, if you've never had to do that before, join the club, and I will tell you in about 30 minutes how well that goes. Thank y'all so much for having me. As someone based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I want to thank y'all for being a beach, because it's a great relief from what I see on the day-to-day. So like Bob said, my name is Scott Caufield. I work on the destination marketing team for Tripadvisor, and I get to help kind of advocate for destinations in a 10-state region that I've lived every day of my life in. So it is quite a fun calling, to say the least. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at some travel trends, kind of looking forward based on some research that was performed for looking ahead to 2023. We're going to look at some Myrtle Beach trends specific to the destination, and we're going to look at some Myrtle Beach review data, and I'm also going to give you some best practices for responding to reviews, because how else can we look ahead if we're not looking at how we're going to reply to people. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And this is based on a survey that we helped perform called the Economic Portrait of the Traveler. We conducted it in late 2022 to look ahead to 2023 travel. So when we talk about the next 12 months, it specifically is speaking to 2023. What we see is that most people are still planning to travel. 93% of the people who responded are saying that they are. Most are, we have some that are planning to travel for business, and only 7% said they're not currently planning to travel. So I think what we can take from that is that a lot of people are still really loving travel, even, especially more so after COVID and after having been, locked up in their home for whatever reason, whether it be lockdowns or, just their own health and safety concerns for so long. And, of that, at least half are planning 3+ trips this year. They're planning longer trips as well. In terms of what they're wanting to do, it's pretty evenly spread. They're wanting to get some time in with friends and family. They're wanting to make some memories. They're wanting to relax. And they're wanting to get away. Myrtle Beach is a great destination for all of those things. I think we can all agree. Inflation is still a concern. I think it's a concern for all of us. But that desire to travel, I think, is going to override a lot of those concerns. Kind of similar to what Aaron was telling us earlier about people being willing to sacrifice some of their other expenses to pay for travel. We're seeing that data as well. In fact, a lot of travelers are planning to spend more on travel. I think that's extremely encouraging. And almost all of them are willing to sacrifice too. Let's see, 94% are willing to sacrifice something that they have day in and day out in order to help fund their travel budget. So very, very good news there. So let's look at some Myrtle Beach trends. This data is based on traffic on our site for Q1 of 2023. In terms of unique user traffic in Q1, Myrtle Beach comes in right at number 28 out of 50 in the U.S., and that's just based on traffic. In fact, there's some other data that was released recently that we'll talk about a little bit later. Click to book windows. Now this looks like some rainbow spaghetti stats, so I'm going to kind of summarize all of this for you because this is a booking window data that we're looking at here. This is booking window data where we're contrasting 2019 against 2023, because 2019 as we're kind of coming out of the pandemic is kind of the year that we're comparing and contrasting against the most, because that was pre-COVID. And what we're seeing is that, booking windows for Myrtle Beach are actually starting to come back down. So the period of time between people actually start to research and they actually come to town is a little more narrow now. It's still a good ways out, but those windows are starting to close and they're starting to get a little more narrow. So there's not as long of a booking tail. So far this year, average length of stay is up compared to all of the previous 4 years. In terms of the share of accommodation clicks, so what this stat here is, and this is a lot of bar graphs here, and I apologize for that, but this is people in the month of March clicking to book in Myrtle Beach, and the majority of those bookings are after March. In fact, the majority of them are looking at the heavy season over the summer. So let's take a look at the trip types to Myrtle Beach for 2023 year to date. This is all based on review data. So when you submit a review on Tripadvisor, you indicate the type of trip it was when you reviewed the hotel or the restaurant or the attraction that you reviewed. And there are 5 different categories. So this is what this is pulled from. And these are all from reviews 2023 year to date. 7% of visitors, according to our reviews, are solo visitors. 17% are friends. 5% trip type is business travel, 47% couples, and 24% families. Now, again, I think this speaks to the period of time at which we looked at this. We looked at this 2023 to date, so that's why the percentage for families is probably lower than couples, because we've had a lot of school. So far 2023 has been basically most kids have been in school. You've had some spring break in there and everything. That's probably what's contributed to that 24%. But if we looked at this over the course of an entire year, that family and couples percentage would probably be a little bit closer. But as you can see, the majority of the people that based on our reviews that are coming to Myrtle Beach are people who are household units of some sort. Couples, families, etc. So what I did here is I looked at review score data for 2023 year to date for Myrtle Beach, and I also contrasted a little bit. So let's take a look. What I pulled on 3 different categories. The 3 main categories of businesses on the site are accommodations, restaurants, and attractions. The attractions would be basically any kind of point of interest where you can't put a fork to your mouth or your head on a pillow. So for accommodations, and for those of y'all who are not familiar with the site, your average review score on the site is going to be between a 1 and a 5. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Everybody, in fact, I spoke to a group a few months ago, and they had, one of the people there had a really clever saying they strive for 5. So accommodations, 4.14 out of 5 for Myrtle Beach year to date. And we contrast that against the state of South Carolina and the U.S., you're ahead of the curve. Restaurants, 4.21 out of 5. Again, ahead of the curve compared to the state and the U.S. So, the state of South Carolina is actually ahead of the U.S. So, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, doing really good. Y'all are doing something right. Attractions. So you did come in a little bit low there. But you know what? A 4.39 is kind of like saying, I got an A- and my friend got an A, right? That's not bad. 4.39 out of 5, especially with attractions. Attractions are always the highest average category. So don't, obviously, those of y'all who are here from attractions, don't take that to heart as in you have a bad overall experience. 4.39 is a great average. And again, it's 4.39 out of 5. So put that into context. Even though it does trend a little bit behind the state and the national average, it is not a bad average score whatsoever. And the average review score year to date is 4.22. And that basically just takes those last 3 numbers and just mashes those all up into one big average. And, there we go. By contrast, that takes us to 4.27 against the state of South Carolina, so skews a little bit below, and 4.09 against the United States. So the great takeaway from this is that y'all are doing something great here. Y'all are really delivering a great guest customer experience. people are recognizing that, and people are wanting to tell the world about that. So whatever you're doing, keep it up. It's always great to be able to come to a stage like this, because not every town I've been in this year, and given this data, has the story been this good? In fact, I would say I was at a coastal destination a little bit closer to my own home earlier this year, and it was not nearly that good. But they're working on it. So the other thing I had our research team pull is I pulled the top 10 words in reviews for Myrtle Beach for 2023 year to date. And this is all reviews. So this is, this isn't just the good ones, it isn't just the bad ones, it's every single one. Well, and look at that. Again, you have much to be proud of here. Great, food, good, staff, beach, of course, friendly, service, clean. I've got some best practices for responding to reviews, because I wanted to not just give you data and give you stats, but also give you some things that you can hopefully go back to the office with today or in the morning or whenever you get back, that you can hopefully put into practice based upon some of our own guidance for best practice when you respond to reviews. Certainly this this guidance is stuff you can put to practice on Tripadvisor, but you can also put it to practice on Google or Yelp or anywhere else that you get reviews from your guests and your customers. So with that in mind, first one is sign up for review notification emails. I think that's extremely important to do. That way, especially if you get a negative review, that way you get that notification. You can kind of take a look at that, and you can kind of decide, what your next, what your course of action is going to be. Next one is respond promptly. And by promptly, that's going to look different for everyone. And I'll qualify that statement. You wear a lot of hats in your job. So when it comes to responding to reviews, and this really would apply to any platform that you get reviewed on, respond in a time that fits your bandwidth, at least for the positives. And that may be every morning you spend the first 15 minutes responding. Or that may be every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. Whatever that looks like for you, just make sure it's a habit. That's the most important thing. It doesn't have to be that you're going in and responding to reviews every single day and it's monopolizing your time. And in terms of the number of reviews you should respond to, on the negatives, 100%. On the positives, about 50%. That doesn't mean you can't respond to all of your positive reviews. It just means that the secondary benefit of those responses to those positive reviews starts to level out if you respond to more than half of your positives. So you're not in trouble if you respond to them all. It's just, again, best use of your time. Once you get to 50%, you're fine. Say thank you. Sounds obvious, but a lot of times you're reading these reviews when you're in your safe place. You're in your office, you're at home, you got your phone out looking at them. You're not customer facing, right? Be original. This is so important, y'all. Be original in your response. Do not robo-reply. Do not reply to reviews saying, thank you so much for coming in. We're so glad you came to visit us. We hope you come back. If you do that every time, the benefit will be worse, or the outcome of that in terms of perception is worse than if you just didn't reply at all. Now, if you have somebody that's on your staff that responds to reviews and you say, you know what, I don't need to give him that much of a leash. We need to kind of keep him chained in a little bit, roped in within some boundaries. That's perfectly fine. You can work off of a template, but make sure that there's room in that template for personalization. So you can say, thank you so much for visiting. We're so grateful you came here for your daughter's birthday. Or, thank you for celebrating your 20th anniversary with us. Something that shows that you read their review. Or, we're so sorry that, that the plumbing in your room, had a leak or something. Just something that you can show some originality. Highlight the positives. Just like we were talking about. We're so glad that Bob took good care of you, or that Sarah was such a attentive server. Address any specific issues. And this is what I'll say, issues that usually means a negative review. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But responding to a negative review real quickly is a way that you can speak to future guests in a way that you couldn't through a response to a positive review. A negative review in a lot of ways can be a gift because it shows people that you're not just there for the good times. And when you respond to a negative review, you're responding to that reviewer, but you are talking to a future guest. And keep that in mind. So when you respond, you want to respond in a way that someone is going to look at that response and say, you know what? I don't mind coming here. They may have gotten a bad review, but it looks like there's somebody who is at the, in charge, who is engaged, and is going to make sure that we have a good time, even when things aren't the best, even if it is a bad experience. Because that's what people want to see with reviews. Yeah, the positives are good, but they're looking for an assurance that they're going to be taken care of. Be polite and professional. Again, sounds very obvious, but just like the say thank you, polite and professional is day one hospitality training, but the difference is that, again, you're reading these reviews a lot of times at the end of the day when you're in your office, you're at home, you're in your safe place where you're away from guests, away from customers, somewhere you kind of exhale and let the day fall off of you. You let out all those eye rolls you've been saving up all day. So just make sure that even though your mindset may be a little bit different when you're reading it, you're kind of in your safe place because you're not out there engaged with customers, that your mentality is still customer facing when you respond to those reviews. Because, a negative review kind of hurts, right? I mean, it's kind of like insulting your kids. And lastly, invite outreach by phone or email if relevant. So specifically, this speaks to make goods. Let's say you get a negative review and you read the review and what's in there, you say, you know what, guilty as charged. It wasn't our best day. Because you know what? We run imperfect businesses run by imperfect individuals. And things will happen. Negatives, bad experiences happen. And you read that review, you own it, you say, yep, that was us, unfortunately. And you want to give them, you want to give the individual a make good. And you say, I'd love to, I'd love to give them a free night, free meal, free ticket, whatever that might be. It's perfectly fine to do that, but do not do that in your response. The reason for that being is 2 words: human nature. Because what'll happen, and this is an example from when I was actually researching a trip, personal vacation for my family a few years ago. This was a hotel that got a negative review, and they were it was one of the big chains. And they gave somebody enough points in their loyalty program that they could get a really nice free night to make up for that, to compensate for their bad experience. Is that wrong that they offered that? Absolutely not. If that's what they feel appropriate and that's what they their standard practice, that's fine. But invite that offline. Instead of saying here's 50,000 points to have fun with, what you're going to get is you're going to get a lot of people who have really great experiences on the property. And they say, I love this place so much, I'm going to trash it in my reviews so I can come back for free. So if you're going to offer that make good, take it offline. Say, you know what, my name's so-and-so, I'm the general manager. Please call me at this number or email me at this address. And then once you take that offline, away from the eyes of millions of people on a large website, offer the make good, offer the meal, offer the ticket, whatever that might be. Okay, and real quickly, I'm just going to show you some partnership highlights for 2023. Very quickly, because I don't like to toot my own horn, but in 2023 so far, people exposed to any kind of Myrtle Beach advertising on Tripadvisor, we do have a great partnership thanks to the folks at the Bureau, and thank you so much to the agency partners at MMGY. But so far in 2023, people exposed to Myrtle Beach ads have viewed 50% more pages of Myrtle Beach content. Click to book in Myrtle Beach, 50% more, and viewed points of interest, so individual listings, 30% more, compared to people who were not exposed to the ads that were in the same target audience. So it was the same pool of people, but the people who saw the ads did a heck of a lot more. The other thing I would say too is that the ADR from people who saw the ads is about $250, which is higher than people who didn't. So kind of speaks to that more valuable guest. So I'm very proud of that. And with that, I want to say thank you. I'm a couple minutes early. Hey. Yeah. Woo. I wanted to keep it short but sweet. I can always get short right, but the other part, it's always cut to go. So thank y'all. Thank y'all so much.